Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Today I've got a fun video for you. We're going to check out a new laser engraver by Wainlux. This is the K8. Before I get into the content, I need to let you know this video is sponsored by Wainlux, who sent me this laser engraver for review. That said, my opinions are my own. I'm under no obligation to say anything or give you anything other than my honest opinion. Now, before we start playing around with the laser, let's cover some key specs. First off, the price, $349 US, and that's on the Wainlux store, and this is a pre-launch state for this device. So if you want to get one, just be aware it's pre-launch. They expect to start shipping these near the end of November 2023. The laser is a 455 nanometer wavelength. This laser engraver provides USB and Wi-Fi connectivity, and I really like the Wi-Fi connectivity because you can basically put the laser on your table somewhere, maybe out in your garage, and then you can do your work on your computer and send the file over your house network right to the laser engraver. Very cool functionality. I like that a lot. It has a 200-watt camera inside. I'm going to show you what that means on the camera, but there's a really cool feature on this device where you can take a picture of the bed and that picture is brought into the software, and then you can lay your engraving right over that image, and it works pretty well. I'll show you how that works in just a little while. There are 3 different laser power options: 2.5 watts, 5 watts, and 10 watts. Of course, you know, if you can manage the 10 watt, I would do that because you can always go lower on the power. If you want to go higher, you have to do multiple cuts. So definitely, if you can manage it, get the 10 watt version. Here's a look at the working area inside the laser. It's 130 millimeters by 130 millimeters, so it's not huge. You get about a 4x4 piece of plywood in there, and that's about it. This laser uses a manual focus lever, so when you're ready to start your project, you can move your laser over the work table, drop the arm down, and then there's a wheel over here on the side, and you use that wheel just to make the workpiece touch the focus lever. And once you've got that, then you can put your focus lever back up, and you're ready to start your project. The front panel has a 99.7% effective filter against blue light. The spec says it's a 15,000 millimeter per minute speed. I think that might be a little bit aggressive, although I haven't done a materials test, so I don't exactly know, but I can tell you when I cut the little demo helicopter, I had to get it down kind of slow. Obviously, if you're going to engrave, you can go a little higher than that, and I did a test engrave on one of the plastic cards they sent, and on that one I used the default setting, which was about 4,000 or 5,000 millimeters per minute just for an engrave on this plastic, and that seemed to work pretty well. One of the things I really like about this laser is they include an external purifier, which is really cool. What that means is you can technically run it inside your house. Now, I did run an actual cut project inside, and out the back I saw some smoke. So it's not 100% effective, but it definitely brings that smoke down and traps it on a filter inside this box. The K8 also has a nice little interior light, so when you need to work inside the enclosure, putting your workpiece down, you can see what you're doing. Very nice touch. And then one of my favorite features about this device is it's got this little positioning strip, and they actually have grooves and notches on the build plate. So this positioning strip attaches to the metal plate. You can see there's a pin here and a pin here, so that'll keep it square on the plate. And then once you've got it on your bed where you want it, you can move your workpiece against the positioning plate and get repeatable results every time you use it. Very cool feature, like that one a lot. Wainlux says the 10 watt laser can cut 8 millimeter plywood and 10 millimeter pine. The 5 watt version can cut 3 to 5 millimeter plywood and 5 to 7 millimeter pine. And the 2.5 watt version can cut 1 to 2 millimeter plywood and 3 millimeter pine. And of course, in addition to wood, there are other materials you can cut, like cardboard. Here's a little piece of cardboard, obviously plywood. There's a little vinyl graphic you can cut, leather, plastic, all kinds of different things you can cut with these laser engravers. And in case you're wondering, they do sell a roller attachment. There's a little USB port right here for a roller attachment. All right, that's enough with specs. Let's actually cut something. The first thing I'm going to do is connect the air purifier on the back. And they include, when you get the air purifier, they include this little hose, and it's an extendable hose. So the way it works is you connect the air purifier. It's just this twist and lock mechanism. So you stick that in the side and just give it a little twist on the laser engraver itself. And then you do the same thing on the top of the air purifier. So you just set it in its notches there, give it a little bit of a twist, and there it is. It's latched on. And then to power it on, there's a great big power button right here, and then you can control the speed of the purifier with this button up top. To get started, I'll take a 3 millimeter piece of plywood, and I'm just going to lay it on the build plate. And then I'm gonna drop the focus arm down, and we'll use the wheel over here on the side so that focus arm is straight up and down. And once we see that and we're just touching the workpiece, then we can move that focus arm into the up position, and then we can turn the laser on and close the door. I'm going to show you a little bit about the software, which is called CutLab X. You can download that from CutLab X's website. I'll have a link in the description for you. I can tell you the version of CutLab that came on the SD card inside the laser engraver actually didn't work for me. I had to go to the website and download the latest version as of this video. That's 1.0.6. And I also had to take the USB driver that's included on the SD card off of the SD card and install it in my computer before it worked. Sadly, the manual didn't say anything about installing a USB driver. Fortunately, Wainlux included the driver on the SD card. So make sure you install that USB driver first, because in order for all this functionality to work, you first have to connect with USB, then you have to set your Wi-Fi mode, and once you have Wi-Fi mode, then you can use the over-the-air functions like sending a job directly to the laser engraver and actually using the camera. You have to have Wi-Fi in order to use the camera. Now with CutLab X open, you have to log in and create an account. Once you do, they have a whole bunch of little demo models that you can buy, and the price is all set to $0. So they're just demos that you can download. As you can see, I already pulled down the little helicopter and cut that, and it worked great. I didn't have any problems with it other than having to turn up the power just a little bit. So I turned up the power, and instead of running 1 pass, I ran 2, and that got the helicopter to cut actually okay. Once you've created a login, either within the app or directly on the CutLab X website, you have the ability to grab any of these models and send them over to your engraver. So you can take a closer look at a model by clicking on the image, and it'll load up the model and show you how to assemble it. It'll give you the little step-by-steps, which is actually really convenient. And if you decide you want to use it, you can go ahead and click on Use, and that will bring the model up on a build plate. Now before you start your cut, what I'd recommend is doing a little experimentation with your speed and engrave time settings just to get an idea of where you are with your material and with the laser. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and start at 300 millimeters per minute, and I'm going to set the engraving times to 2 with the power set at 100. And once I'm happy with my settings, I'll click Start. I don't know if it's going to be too hot or too slow or too fast. I don't know yet. So we'll do a little test. We'll see what happens, and I'm just going to hit Start. And once I do that, you'll see the file get sent over to the printer over the wireless network. And once that upload is complete, the job will start. I really like that Wi-Fi feature. It's very cool to be able to send a job right over your network to your laser engraver and not have to worry about SD cards, USB cables. Very cool function. Now while that airplane cuts, I'll show you a couple of other things that I worked on in the meantime. When I first took the laser out of the box, I dropped one of these cards in and I did some text and burned it into this plastic card. That was my first effort. This is my first test. This is my second test, my third test. By the time I got to the third one, I turned up the heat and slowed it down a little bit, and I wound up with this little straggler line up top. I'm not sure what that is. It's just one of those things you have to kind of tune out as you work on your laser engraver. In the parts and accessories box, they give you a little dry erase marker. Not exactly sure what that's for, but they give you one. So you've got a little dry erase marker. Here's a little paintbrush, I guess, to sweep out the dust box down at the bottom. They give you a couple of metal tags so you can practice. I want to show you this one. We're going to drop this tag on that bed, and I'm going to show you how that works in just a little bit. They also give you a little micro USB reader, and that can be useful because, again, you have to take the USB driver off of the SD card that's in the back of the printer and install it on your computer. So in case you don't have a micro SD card reader, they include one in the box. Here's a look at the K8 user manual, and little typo there, but that's not uncommon. We see that from time to time in translation. But they give you a nice diagram to kind of show where all the parts are and how things work, where to get to the SD card port, where the USB port is for the rotary, and where the exhaust fan is, the engrave button, power switch. So, you know, a little breakout to give you an idea. One of the things I really liked is they give you this product operation flowchart. So they kind of walk you through, if you've never used a device like this, exactly how to do things, which is very good. And then here's a little instructions on how to use the focus lever. So I'd say overall very nicely done on the manual. Again, the only thing that I would say they missed is there's no reference in the manual about installing the driver. It says power on, connect USB, open the software, click connect, select USB, click connect, and then connect as displayed. So that's what I did, and it did not work. I had to install the driver. Fortunately, like I said, the driver was on the SD card, so make sure you install that. And then here is a guide on how to use your mobile phone apps. They do have an Android APK. I was unable to locate the iPhone app. I'll keep looking for it, and if I find any information, I'll add it in the description. But as of the video, I was unable to locate an actual iPhone app. But they do have an Android APK. And then here's some information about connecting the mobile phone to the machine in STA mode, whatever that means. They don't explain what STA mode, it just shows it. They also include a manual for the air purifier, which I'll be turning on in just a moment. I didn't want it running while I was talking because it's a little bit loud, but they show how the air purifier works, how to connect it, how to operate the locking mechanism, where the air tube assembly connects, and so on. Now, what I will say about the filter, I believe the filter is a proprietary device, so I'll go ahead and take the lid off the purifier, and I'm gonna pull that filter out, and you can see, I don't think that's something you're just gonna be able to run down to Lowe's and buy, so might not be a bad idea to order a spare one of these when you order your K8, because this, again, does look a little bit proprietary to me. Although, probably not that hard to make. If you've got a little bit of cardboard and some duct tape, you can probably make that. But we'll drop that back in, and I'm gonna turn the purifier on now because it is getting a little smoky in here. Okay, once you've got your filter inside, you can turn the filter on by pressing the power button on the bottom, and then you can change the speed of the filter, which creates more vacuum, by pressing this button that's labeled button. So we'll press that a second time and a third time. That really cranks it up, and now we're pulling the air right out of the engraver cabinet and into the purifier. I mentioned a little bit earlier about setting your cut speed a little bit slower and engraving more than once, and the reason for that is right here. You can see that on this side where the cut actually took place, it looks good, but on the back side, it didn't actually cut all the way through. And that's not gonna be a lot of fun trying to pop those out of there. They'll probably break, and that's why I suggest you gotta turn it up just a little bit. But not hard to do. You just increase your number of cut times or slow it down, or increase the power, or some combination of the above. Okay, that cut job is complete. Let's pop it out and see how it did. Now remember, this is the speed of 300 millimeters per minute with an engraving time of 2 and the maximum power set at 100. So we'll take a look at the back, and you can see on the back there are a couple of little stragglers, like right there where it's still connected. That's gonna be a little problematic. So I would say 300 millimeters probably needs to be slowed down just a little bit more, maybe 200 millimeters, or you can do a third engrave. I'm gonna flip it over and see if I can pop any of these out cleanly. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. See, you got a couple of little splinters right there. That's what I'm talking about. But you know, it's manageable. It's manageable. The prop is gonna be a little more stubborn, huh? Let's see, come on, little prop, come out of there. Yeah, this is where just, I think slowing it down maybe just a little more, or running a third pass would definitely solve the problem. But it's not too bad, not too bad. There we go. There's the fuselage. Let's see if I can get it out without breaking that wheel off the back. That wheel's telling me it wants to break. It's gonna try. There it goes, I got it. Nice, there's the fuselage. All right, so yeah, not too bad. I'll pop the rest of that off camera and put it together so you can see it at the end. The next thing I want to show you is how to engrave a small piece, because they have a really cool party trick up their sleeve for this one. We'll start out by taking the positioning piece, and we're going to open the cabinet, and we're going to drop that positioning piece on the bed, and it doesn't really matter where you do it. It is magnetized, and like I said, they've got these little pins that can keep it square for you. So I've done that. Now I'm going to take my little dog tag here, and we're going to drop that in and just slide that up against that positioning piece just like that. Okay, and then we'll close the door, and next thing we'll do is bring up the computer. All right, now I'm back in the CutLab software, and I'm going to click on Start Creation, and the first thing we'll do is connect to Wi-Fi. So we'll come over here to the bottom right, click on Wi-Fi, and then hit connect. And I hear the machine reacting to that, so that's good. Then we'll come up to the top, and this little bar up top, and we're going to hit the camera button. And I will tell you that there have been more than one occasion I've been able to crash the application hitting that camera button, but if it does crash, I just reopen it and take another picture and it seems to work. So there we go, there's the party trick. There's my dog tag right there on the screen. Now, this is what I like about this solution so much. If I hit text and I type in, we'll just put in some information. I'll call it Einstein, the name of my cat, and we'll put in a phone number. We'll call it 444-555-1212, and we'll change the font because the default font is kind of terrible, but I'll change the font to that. And under the layers, we're also going to do fill, and then I'm going to make this small enough to fit on my dog tag, just like this. This is a really cool feature. If you've ever done alignment on small parts on a laser, you know exactly what's going on here. So there we go. There's the name and the phone number, and it's kind of centered. It's maybe a little hard to see exactly if it's centered, and I haven't spent the time in this app yet to figure out if they've got some centering tools. I don't think so. I kind of would like to turn that snap to grid off because it's popping on me and I don't like that. So I haven't figured that part out yet. It's possible, it's doable. If not, you might just need a better mouse than what I've got out here on this laptop. But anyway, there we go. So now I've got my text centered on my dog tag, and when I click off of it, we can see that the text is there. So over here on the engraving time, I'm going to bring that up again. I'm going to hit maybe 3, maybe 4. I don't know, 4 seems good. And then for power, I'm going to set the power to 100. We'll just double click and type 100. Before we send the job over to the laser, let's turn it off. Don't forget, this is a manual focus laser. So we'll open the door, we'll push the laser head over our workpiece, we'll drop the focus lever. We want that to touch our workpiece, so we'll just move that so it's touching. And then we have to make the adjustment on our workbed so that they just touch. And once that touches the focus lever, then we can put it in the up position and put the laser head back, and now we're ready to send the job over. So now I've got the laser turned on, and I'm going to hit the start button, and that'll send the engraved job over to the laser. Okay, now that's done, we can pull our dog tag out and see what we think of it. And there's a look at the Engrave. So it actually came out pretty good, but if you want to do a little bit more, say you want it to be a little more pronounced, you can take the tag and put it right back against the positioning bar, close the door, and then just hit start again, and your job will be sent back over to the laser engraver, and it will repeat the process. The cool part about that alignment bar is that you don't have to worry about whether or not your text will be kind of blurry, you know, out of space. You push it right up against that corner and it just does the job again. And of course, this is really handy if you're trying to make multiple copies of something like a business card. All right, after the second run on the dog tag, I'm going to pop that out and we'll take a look. And yep, definitely looks a little more pronounced. But that's the idea. You can use that positioning tool to replace a part on the bed again after you've removed it and get it to do the job again without worrying about blurring your lines. And I don't see any problem there. There's no misalignment. That actually works pretty well. Well, there's a look at the airplane. Don't look too close. I had a couple broken parts, but that was mainly due to the fact that they didn't all break off cleanly and I didn't cut them down with a razor to make them all slide together nicely. But at the end of the day, overall, it did fine. It would just be a function of tuning the laser a little bit more to make sure you had clean cuts. But I think it did a pretty good job making the little airplane. Not bad. All right, let's talk a little bit about pros and cons. I think where there's room for improvement has to do with the documentation. They need to include a statement about installing the driver because without that information, I struggled for a little while. But when I figured out there was a driver on the SD card, I installed it and I got up and running. Also on the software, there are a couple of usability issues. There's a calibrate button up here on the top, and when you click on that, on more than one occasion, I crashed the software. Another issue, I think, with the software related to usability is this little side window where you work with layers. You have to scroll left and right, and I really don't care for that because the two windows aren't resizable. You can't change the relationship with the work window and the information window. You just can't resize them. The last complaint I have on the software is the version of CutLab that came on the SD card actually didn't work. I had to install 1.0.6 from the CutLab website. That did work. On the pros side, I like the way they integrated everything. I like the idea of an enclosed cabinet paired up with an air purifier. That means you can put it inside to do your job. The software allowing you to send your jobs over the Wi-Fi network to the engraver, that is 2 thumbs up for me. I love that feature. I think all of these devices that we have access to, whether they're 3D printers, laser engravers, they all should support sending your job over the network. I think that's a really nice improvement over some of the more pedestrian laser engravers out there. Obviously, this is not an industrial device. The workspace is 130 by 130 and the laser is 10 watts. So if you want to do more industrial work, bigger parts, more cutting, you're going to need something a little more heavy duty. So this is aimed really more at the hobbyist. But it's got some really cool features like the positioning bar that allows you to do things like an engrave and repeat the process. I can tell you, I've done business cards on a regular laser. It's a pain in the neck. That position bar would have saved me a lot of time. So that's a very cool feature and allows things like this to be repeatable. I would suggest if you intend to use it inside, probably you want to get a couple of air filter cartridges. That way, if you're doing a job, you won't get stuck in case your filter goes south on you and it starts smoking up the house. I think that K8 has some really good usability options, including the LED indicators to let you know what's going on at a glance. I really like the safety feature of the door. That way, if the door is open while you're cutting something, the laser stops. You don't have to risk the kids opening the door and hurting their eyes or hurting themselves by messing around with the laser. So very good functionality there. They were really thinking ahead. In the end, the question comes down to whether or not I recommend the K8, and I'd have to say yes, as long as you understand the limitations. The software, it's a little fiddly. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge, but if you push through, you can get it to work. It's not that big of a deal. You'll also be aware it's a 130 by 130 workspace and a 10 watt laser, so you'll have to adjust your workflow accordingly. Just take that into account. I'd like to say thanks to Wainlux for sending the K8 out for review, and I'll remind you if you'd like to pick one up for yourself, I'll have a link in the description. I'll also have a link in the description for the CutLab X software. If you like this kind of content, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know new videos hit the channel. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy and go fly something.